So this was a piece of boat handrail just like this, but this is mahogany and this was teak. So all I did was ripped the two bull noses off, one off each side, and made one a little wider and cut a notch in it. And these are going to go over the little top of the little side panels to make some trim, finish them out. And here's the little cap clamped in place.
So I used epoxy glue, and as always, you got to be patient. It takes a day. So this is the next day.
Success on this, because it's laminated, it doesn't want to spring back and it's less likely to break. So good stuff here.
I want to put teak trim around this area to finish it off. And the cushion will hide this side and there's not much of this side to show. And I can't bend teak like that. It just doesn't bend well. So what I'll do is I will glue up a bunch of pieces into a big chunk and bandsaw that curve out of a big chunk, and then I'll put a straight piece on top and a straight piece on the side. So you get some pieces glued up and clamped, and tomorrow I can cut them out. So now that I've driven the cart up and down the street a few times and it steers okay, I mean for a cart, it's not a car, I'm gonna go ahead and weld these out and paint them, and the front end will be done. My two glue ups for the corner of the seat, just need to scrub them, get them to fit well, and then square them up and trim them up on the outside. Okay, I got the inside curves fitting pretty good. Some of it was sanding here and some of it was sanding here. And then I took my little marking gauge and I scribed a 1/2 inch line, and I'm going to cut that on the bandsaw. So I scribed and cut the outside curve, and then I ripped both sides to bring it to the width I wanted. And then I cut the end square, and I'm getting ready to stick it in this bed of epoxy and shoot it with the gun. And if I ever want to get it off again, I'll have to sand it off because it will be one with the plywood.
This is the backside of a very old piece of plexiglass. I can no longer get the paper backing off of it, but it doesn't matter. I'm cutting it out to back up the grille on the front of the car. And this is some very lightweight expanded metal that I had, and this is going to go over the plexiglass, and it's just some sort of little faux radiator. It goes up in the front, just something other than just having a flat sheet of plywood, trying to dress it up. This is the bottom side of the back hatch. I'm just adding a little stiffener. It probably didn't even need it, but I had some glue mixed up, so I went ahead and just single stiffener down the middle of the hatch. Can't hurt.
Just put what I hope to be my last skim coat of Bondo on the back engine cover, and when that dries I'm going to cut all the holes for the vents.
So I was looking at spray paint at the Home Depot and I saw this nice dark red, I don't know, maybe maroon, I'm not sure the name of the color, on the cap. I bought 2 cans and brought them home and sprayed, and the stuff in the can was absolutely nothing like the cap. So this is not the color we're going to paint the car. But I went ahead and used the paint to prime the Bondo. Bondo kind of sucks up paint, so rather than put it on the shelf with all my other unused cans of spray paint, I got some use out of it to use it as a primer. And here I am gluing on the rear vent. This is the vent that came out the riding mower. I'm pretty concerned about not having enough vent. This air-cooled engine is going to be kind of enclosed, so doing what I can. I'm going to have to keep an eye on this. It may need some changes in the future.
So after enough coats of varnish are put on the wood, I sanded the white and have 1 coat of green on it this morning, and it's super humid, so it's not going to dry today. 1 more coat of green maybe tomorrow, and then I can put the front grille on, then I can put the front axle back on. Got the engine cover, 2 coats of green. Fair job. So now I can install these in the corners. And these are mostly for looks. They give a little bit of vent, but not much. And I'm going to put these here. Again, they are vents. They don't have a whole lot of open area.
Typically I'll use epoxies on rough surfaces like wood and some plastics, especially fiberglass. I don't typically try to epoxy metal, but I did epoxy that big lawnmower vent on the back just because it just happened to work out the best. And I don't normally, or I wouldn't advise trying to glue polished stainless steel. But in this case, all those little bitty holes made just for a perfect mechanical joint. And doing it any other way would have been pretty tough. So I glued these stainless steel access panels or accent panels with epoxy. My clamping system here was not the best idea. I really struggled getting it in there, getting it tight, and getting it in the right spot. It kept moving around. So the next time I do one of these, I'll know better.
I drilled out the steering wheel to fit the hub. This is the hub that was inside the plastic steering wheel that came with a riding mower. And the spline on the inside of this hub fits the end of my steering shaft. So I wanted to put this hub into the steering wheel. So all I did was drill a hole big enough for it to fit in there. And you probably can't see it, but I took the pencil grinder and made the hole in the steering wheel is no longer round, it's all whoppy. And I've got the bottom sealed with clay, and I've filled the inside with clay to make sure the epoxy wouldn't get in that splined interior. I'm going to fill this with epoxy, and when it cures, it should be done. Second coat of green on the body, and I believe it's the last coat. Came out pretty well. Clean the running boards up, put those back on, and when the paint dries, I can assemble the front end again. So it's hard to see, but I put plywood across the bottom, and then I put the grill back on, but I just have it screwed so I can take it off anytime I want, because it's very hard to work on anything under this cowling from the other end. So it's removable. The body's basically complete, except for fenders, which I'm still not exactly sure how I'm going to make. I have concerns about the engine temperature. I think my solution would be, if it wants to run hot, somehow or another make a little prop to keep this open a little bit. I'll monitor it, but I'm not really sure how you monitor the temperature of an air-cooled engine. For this back fender, I played with some curves with cardboard, and when I got it where I thought I liked it, I transferred that to plywood, and I cut 2 of them. And then put spacers between them. I'm going to use this as a clamping jig to clamp 2 layers of this Home Depot FRP. See if that'll work for a fender.
So the fiberglass fibers in this product are probably not very good for my table saw blade, but I don't buy expensive blades, so it really doesn't make that much difference. I'm cutting 2 strips to glue together for the fender. So now I'm sanding off the shiny surface so that the glue can get a little bit of a better bite. This is a pretty coarse wheel, so it's leaving a pretty rough surface, which is what I'm looking for. The temperature's kind of cool, so even though my epoxy is the fast set variety, I have plenty of time to get all these things clamped up and straightened out. Kind of pushing the limits of what this stuff will bend. The top part, the part that shows it's in compression, it did not crack. The bottom part that's in tension, I got some hairline cracks, but not failure. I ended up putting some tape over them and some epoxy, and I think they're going to be good.
This is the first back fender trial. We clamped it up yesterday to the little clamping form. Take the clamps off and see what it does, if it keeps its shape or not, and how strong it is. So the first fender out of the mold, unclamped. It had a little bit of spring back. I probably could have made the mold a little different to account for that, but it's not that bad. It really is funny looking because it's bright white, but I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to be permanently attached to this, so when I lift off the engine cover, it'll come with it. I don't know really any other way. And obviously it's too wide now. It needs to be trimmed. It needs to be trimmed to fit the body. These back ends need to be rounded off, but I think it's going to work. I'm going to go ahead and glue up the number 2. So I traced the curve on a sheet of plywood. It's pretty good plywood. It's 1/2 inch, but it's 7 ply. And I actually tightened the curve up a little bit to counteract some of the spring back. And I cut the curve, and I cut one for the other side, and I'm gluing it on the inside face of the fender where it will attach against the engine cover. So I always had in my mind that if I was able to make the fenders out of this plastic, that it would need a steel frame under it because it would just be too flimsy. I'm kind of changing my mind. It is a little bouncy, but I think that might be better. Seeing as how my wife already crashed the car one time, maybe a little flexibility is a good thing. So I glued these up 6 inches wide and ended up cutting them 5 inches for a better fit. I'm going to take the 1 inch that I cut off and glue it under the outside edge. So that'll make a total of 4 layers on this outside edge. And as stiff as that ends up, that's what we're going to go with, because I think maybe a little flex might be a good thing. I used the same mold for the front fenders. I just added a little piece to the straight part because I needed a little more length. And I got them glued up, got them parked in front of the heater. Do cats ever catch on fire? And the back fenders, I'm pretty happy with it where I doubled this up. And I just added some more pieces so it will be 4 layers all the way around. And I think I'm going to end this video here because I'm going to be working on these fenders for a while. And it's going to be slow going. So, thanks for watching.